is here.
Funny, Ken isn't here.
Hey, Carol.
Hello.
Carol 1,
Hello.
Carol 2.
Yep. Hello, everybody.
Hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Almost.
Who's the eighth okay, but who's the eighth person?
If you look at the list on the left of the screen, Shirley, you don't have to kick the tiles left.
I don't have a list on the left side.
Okay, there's Shirley, Rick, Dave Chamberlain, Charlie,
Dave.
Carol Nestle.
Dave was the only one. So I say hi to you, Dave. All right. Well, then let's start then. It's 7:12 on this wonderful Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. And I think we will start off. Well, first of all, I want to say, hope everyone had a wonderful solar eclipse day and took a lot of great pictures. And,
I can show you pictures of the sky where it's light and then dark like 2 minutes later.
Yep. I took some of those too. And then, so let's start with Steve. What do you want to start with? Do you want to start with Q&A? Do you want to start with Apple News? What?
I don't know. I don't know of any big Apple news that happened.
Okay.
Well, actually, yeah, I suppose the biggest Apple news is they have announced when WWDC is going to be. June 10 through 14. So that's the week of our meeting. So hopefully that Monday they will have announced whatever they're going to announce, and we'll be able to talk about it at the CIDER meeting.
Okay. A couple months down the road.
Yeah.
Wasn't there some Apple going on about Apple got sued?
Yeah.
Or
all right. So yep. So they're going to do a lot of stuff online this year again as well, for the Worldwide Developer Conference. So it's all for all the programmers. A few people are going to be invited to Apple Park. So you go to Apple Park into the theater and you watch the keynote video like everyone else is going to be watching online.
so what's the difference?
Yeah.
Then you can walk outside and you're in California.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And theoretically, there are Apple engineers there that can answer questions about the programs you've been working on.
Well, you'll also pay a ton of money to go.
Steve, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you boost your volume going into YouTube, please?
All right, I'm getting some peaks. Let me up it higher. All right, let me get up into the... Oh, it's not quite getting into the yellow yet, so let me go to my sound input, Logitech, raise that up a bit. Test. Is that a little better? Yep, now I'm getting into the yellow. Let's see, opportunity to join us. So they are inviting people only. I don't know.
I'm glad it's only people.
I don't know if it's if they're paying the way for the invitations. That would be interesting. But so we'll see the preview of the next iOS and the next macOS. Whatever new stuff might be coming out. All right. Did you have another question, Charlie?
No, and thank you. The volume, your volume is better.
Okay.
You lower my hand.
Yep. All right. Yeah. So as Shirley mentioned, Apple got sued by the FTC? Nope, Justice Department. Let me find AP. So what's ironic? Well, so the basis of the lawsuit is that Apple is using its monopoly power in the smartphone market. The irony is that for Apple, they say, look at all the billions of Android phones, we're not a monopoly. So part of the problem is, are they going to have to define iPhone as a market? And Apple has a monopoly on iPhones, which is true. On the Android side, Google has a monopoly on the Android OS, but other companies make Android phones. But in Europe, the EU has already sued Google for pretty much the same thing. So it's kind of interesting that the US is going to wait to see what happens in Europe, and the EU is going to wait to see what happens in the US. One of the big points so it was a 80-something page document, and a couple of people went through it. I think Jason did at 6 colors. Let me see if I can find his. And one of the biggest points of contention was the Apple Watch, that you must have an iPhone to set up an Apple Watch. You can set an Apple Watch up for somebody else on your iPhone, but you have to start with an iPhone.
That's why it's called an iWatch.
Well, it isn't called an iWatch. It's Apple Watch.
But it says Apple, which means it's their watch.
Right. So
Which
is that okay that you can only use an iPhone to set up an Apple Watch, and the Justice Department thinks not?
Well, why not? I mean, if Google or somebody else wanted to start their own watch to use an Android, they could do it.
They have. All of them have failed, and they have almost pretty much left the market.
Well, then there you are.
Their search.
Nobody's stopping them from making that.
See, if you set up somebody else's Apple Watch using your iPhone, can it then be used with their Android phone?
No.
Okay.
But the thing
Oh,
is,
no,
if they
this is
don't have,
This
if
is
the
a different
person
lawsuit.
doesn't have their own iPhone, they won't be able to
Use the
do
watch.
like the health app and things like that.
Yeah, you can do everything on the watch itself, but nothing links back to your phone.
Yeah.
Well, I think at this point they're all monopolies. They should probably all be broken up, and then maybe we'd have some real competition. But that's just me.
Oops.
And maybe the Justice Department too, but time will tell.
Now, the other thing I heard in the news was Apple moving to Florida for its headquarters, or some of its headquarters. A lot of tech companies are all flocking to Florida.
I don't know why.
What's the
It'll be
attraction?
underwater.
What do they get for going to Florida?
I don't know,
Wonder.
an article I read
Something
recently
legal.
about investing in Florida because all these companies are going there because certainly Florida's, I don't know, maybe it's the Wild West. You can do whatever they want there. I don't know.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that either.
No,
Let me
because
see if
that
I
would
can
mean
find
that
it.
once again, corporations have more rights than people do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
I see what it is. Let me bring it up here.
Well, you know, Florida's going to go underwater and then they'll be left. They'll be lost.
So they are building a new office space
Wow.
In Coral
in
Gables.
Coral Gables, 45,000 square feet. No one knows what it's going to be for yet. Amazon is looking for space too. Microsoft already has office space. Interesting.
Yep, that's what I mean. All these people are suddenly going to Florida.
Maybe Apple wants to do a deal with Disney to make content for the Apple Plus TV Plus channel.
Yeah,
They do have
they
do
do
have some
have
stuff.
some deals, but yeah, maybe it will be for a studio.
because Disney is going to do the $60 billion expansion. over the next 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years. So maybe that's part of,
Do they even have the land for that?
apparently, they're expanding in California and they're going to expand in Florida. A lot of the land, though, some of it is swamp land too.
Yeah.
So
So even though they have a lot of acreage, part of it is, can they actually build on it?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a new building Apple is going into.
So
Let's see what Fortune says. Yeah, people close to the matter who asked not to be identified. Apple already has a smaller office which is focused on Latin America. Miami is so close and has such a large Latin American population. And South Florida has been a magnet for the ultra wealthy. So let's see, commercial property in Miami is $57 a square foot. So $57 a square foot times 50,000 square feet, $2.8 million. I don't know if that's a month or a year. It's got to be a year.
not too expensive
3
for a
million,
big corporation.
$3 million a year. Let's see what Bloomberg said. Probably everyone is reporting the same. Oh, I can't see Bloomberg until I pay for it. 9 to 5 Mac. They might say a Mac thing. So it may not be for an Apple store because it's in an office building rather than a mall.
Well, who knows what they're doing down there?
Although, well, this one says they're working on planning 50 new or rebuilt stores around the world. Oh yeah, the other big news out of Apple is 700 to 1,000 layoffs. So the Apple Car project that was never officially announced has apparently been officially canceled, and most of those people have been moved over to the AI team because that's what a lot of the Apple Car work was, on machine learning to get the car not to hit people. Whenever you fill out a CAPTCHA when you're logging in somewhere, you're training Google's AI not to hit people in their self-driving car.
So that's why I have to identify motorcycles all the time.
Yep, and crosswalks and buses.
So it knows what to look for.
Yep. Oh, so there's a law that says they have to give 60-day notice to both state and local if they're going to do a close a plant or a large layoff. That's kind of nice. I just read about some restaurant yesterday where the employees showed up for work and there was a sign taped to the door saying out of business.
Yikes.
Yeah, that used to happen around here a lot
workers
too.
didn't even know.
It seems pretty bad, though, that you can't even just give a head up to your employees to say, I'm sorry, but, we're going to have to close short notice and don't come in. So, to just show up and nobody's there and you're like, yeah, we took off for South America with all the funds. Goodbye.
Well, if they notify them ahead of time, the don't come in part might start sooner than when they closed.
Oh, yeah, I know, but still.
If you're going to be in Shanghai anytime soon, they have a beautiful new Apple store open. Now, growing forests. So Apple wants to be carbon neutral by 2030. Although all the other companies are saying 2050, but Apple wants to do 2030. So if you remember that sort of self-serving video they put out before an event, probably WWC a year or two ago, with Octavia Butler playing Mother Nature. They're building forests to offset their carbon usage.
Yeah. Trees don't grow fast enough.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's see. Tribal lands. Preserving tribal land. That's a pretty shot. In Yosemite and El Capitan. Going back to old OS versions. Oh, this was kind of neat. If you do a podcast, you can now do automatic transcripts. So you don't have to pay for a transcript service to make transcripts. Partly using their, you can probably call that AI. Doing speech recognition and turning it into text.
That's a good thing my old job that I kind of retired when I did.
As a transcriptionist, that's kind of dying off. And so we talked about the M3 computers last month. Did anyone get one? Trade in your M2 for an M3.
Nobody want one.
You probably wouldn't trade in your M1 or M2 for an M3, but if you still have an Intel Mac, you're probably starting to get ready for it.
Yeah.
We still have, I don't want to say arguments because that's too strong a word, but people who will bring in a 10-year-old computer and want us to upgrade it with more RAM and an SSD. And so we say, yeah, we can do that. You're looking at $600-700. And well, that's cheaper than a new iMac. True. But you're putting a Band-Aid on an ancient device, and the new computer would be so much faster. Even with more RAM and an SSD in an old Intel computer.
Well, it's the price of a Mac Mini anyway.
Yeah, so we're the people who don't want to go to the iMac because it only has a 24-inch screen. For $12.99, the Mac Mini is $5.99, which means you've got you can find a really nice 24 or even 27-inch screen for like $300. So for under $1,000, you can get a new the Mini's only M2 yet, M2 and screen. So that's one of the things expected at June is in WWC. But maybe even before then is the M3 Mac Mini, Mac Studio, and Mac Pro. So the higher end desktops are still M2s, even though the iMac is up to an M3 now. Dave Chamberlain going woohoo Intel. Keep those Intel machines as long as you can. Yeah, and so Apple is sort of on the right to repair bandwagon now. So they've expanded their self-service options because they want to be able to lobby for the right kind of right to repair. So you can buy or rent the tools from Apple. You can buy parts from Apple. You can do the repair yourself and save $20 on average. There have been several YouTube people that have done an iPhone battery upgrade or an iPhone screen replacement, and after you rent all the special tools and buy the part from Apple, it was $20 or $30 less than going right to Apple and have them do it for you. But so that's the self-service program. They also have an independent repair program. So if you have a repair shop, you can also get Apple tools and Apple parts. So they have expanded that for more access outside of the authorized to dealer channel, which is a little frustrating for us authorized to dealers. Let's see, is Marty here? No. Let's see how his Apple Vision update worked out. Update came out this week. So a lot of spatial, with the spatial computing. So here, if you're working on a jet turbine, no, that's a rocket engine. So it can tell you how to put everything together. As you're doing the assembly, you can see an overlay of what part goes where. No, that isn't a rocket. It's a KLM Royal Dutch Airline engine shop. Interesting. That looks like, oh, that's the exhaust cone. And then on the left is the intake. So suck, squeeze, bang, blow. How jet engines work. Although, so the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a turbine engine like used on an airplane is a jet because it spits out a jet of hot gases behind it. But a rocket engine is technically also a jet because it spits out a jet of hot gases behind it. Oh, speaking of rockets, the last Delta IV Heavy, Delta IV Heavy launch was that yesterday? Yep. And that's getting replaced by the Vulcan, I think it is.
With USAA Auto Insurance,
No, I wanted to mute. I didn't want to actually.
you can file a claim faster than
done.
Close. Cancel. Can I go full screen? Will that work?
Minus 15. Rope ignition. 10.
T minus
Pressure stop.
10,
8,
9,
7,
8, 7,
5,
6,
4,
5. We have ignition. 2, 1.
left off.
And liftoff of the final United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy rocket, carrying NROL 70 for the National Reconnaissance Office and closing Delta's 6-decade legacy of excellence in space.
It's kind of neat watching the rockets. It's gotten to be there's so many companies launching that there's almost a launch every day. Sometimes 2 or 3 launches in a day. I had a space launch calendar. Is this it? Yeah. So there's a SpaceX launch. Was this morning. No thanks. There's is that Russia? Yeah, in Siberia, Russia's launching one. Now Falcon 9 going off tomorrow. Launching a weather satellite. So there's so many Starlink satellites getting launched. Every 2 or 3 days there's another group of Starlinks going up. Anybody else have any newsy type things? I don't think Apple has responded to the lawsuit yet.
I've got a question for you.
All right.
I tried to do an upgrade to Sonoma, and I found it extremely frustrating. I had all sorts of crashes and kernel panics going on, and I finally decided, I'm going back. So I went back to Ventura. Has anybody else been running Sonoma? What kind of experience did you have?
Yeah, I haven't had any problems on the machines I'm running it on. There's the general issues about making sure your third-party extensions are updated and compatible with Sonoma. Do a clean install rather than an upgrade install. That can sometimes help. Was it any specific program that was having trouble?
It was just everything. It was a mess. And so I decided I'm going to wait until a couple more versions come out before I try it again. I will say it was on an Intel Mac. I don't know if that was part of the issue or not.
Well, technically, no. Was it a spinning hard drive or an SSD?
I had an SSD, I had a thumb drive, and I tried a spinning hard drive as well. The spinning hard drive seemed to have issues.
Yeah, I would expect the thumb drive would have a lot of issues because they're relatively slow. And it tends to be the newest OSs really want to live on an SSD. But what are we up to? 1, 2. So we're at 14.4.1. So we've already had 8 or 9 updates to Sonoma. Now we're going to guess what OS 15 is going to be called. Craig Federighi will send out his crack team of researchers. I still want to see OS 15 Rancho Cucamonga.
I usually find it's best to stay one operating system behind.
Yeah, 1 or 2's not a bad idea. So generally speaking, security updates are supported for the current OS and 2 previous.
Yeah.
So to keep yourself at least secure with the patches that are found, staying at least 2 updates behind and not any farther than that, if your computer supports it. One of the things we've seen is that Apple's system requirements are generally pretty conservative, where what year you have to have. So I think a 2017, actually it should tell me down here at the bottom, 2017 can run Ventura. Yeah, 2018 for Sonoma on the regular Macs. The iMac Pro was still with the Xeon processor could still run it. So you try to run the OS on too old a computer, and it's usually too slow or too unstable to be useful. But a lot of people get mad that they can't run the newest OS on really old computers. There will come a time eventually when it will require Apple Silicon, but probably not for another 5 years or so, because there are still Intel models that are part of Apple's supported product line, which is generally 8 years after the last model was released. And so the first Apple Silicon models came out in, was it 2020, was it? So we've gotten till at least 2028 before things start falling off.
Well, hopefully that'll give me enough time to do my upgrades.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is if you go through and look at the features, if you don't care about the new features, one of the jokes on Sonoma is the first new feature they list are stunning new screensavers. Well, big deal.
Yeah, that's right. Big deal. Who cares?
So if you don't care about new screensavers, you probably don't need to update to Sonoma. Although widgets on the desktop is kind of neat if you're a widget type person. So they added widgets on the iPhone screen a while ago, so that you can now have so like on my home screen I've got the weather and I've got my calendar, so I don't even have to go into the phone, unlock the phone to see my upcoming calendar appointments and the current weather. So it's
Didn't we used to have widgets on Mac OS,
Yep.
and then they took it away for a while, and here it is back again.
And the old desktop accessories. I wonder when they stopped. Mac. Desktop accessories. Oh, see, now that's such a generic term. I'm not going to find it.
I remember the Apple II GS used to have
Yep.
accessories.
And the classic OS. We had a lady today bring in a well, not today, brought it in. We finalized it today. A 30-year-old Power Mac 6100. Yeah, DAs came out in 94 as a part of, or 84 as part of the original Mac OS. So she brought in a 6100 and wanted to get a music program running. We couldn't get the 6100 working, but we got a 6200 working. But when we copied her program to the new computer, it didn't work because it wanted to be installed. So she had to go find her installation disks, and we got that installed today. So working on a 30-year-old Performa 6200, installing 30-year-old software on macOS 7.6. Ran into an interesting problem. OS 7 doesn't support dates beyond 2019, so you can't go to 2020.
How odd.
Yeah, it's for the date. The calendar goes from 1920 to 2019. So fortunately, I was able to find that 1996 calendar is the same as 2024. So you can have the date and time and everything the same, but the year. And when I was digging into it, that looks like they fixed that in System 8. It was probably a 16-bit clock, maybe even 8-bit clock. So this doesn't
Steve?
say when DAs went away. Yes, go ahead.
Can you give me a idiot simple explanation for me, the idiot, of what it means when an app is like 32-bit versus 64-bit?
Yeah. The bits, let me see how far this goes back. Yeah, so we can go to 1-bit computing. So everything in a computer is made up of bits. And bit is short for binary digit, which has two values, either on or off. Is the electricity on? Is the electricity off? So in a computer chip, initially were transistors, and those transistors would store a charge, a 1 or a 0. And the very first processors, the 8080 and the 8086, were 4 bits. So each excuse me, each data cell could have 2 to the 4 possible values. So 16 possible values. So early electronic calculators could calculate with 4 bits. It wasn't until some of the first 8-bit processors, let me go back up to 8-bit computing, where there got to be enough values available to do general purpose computing, basically. And so that would, with 8-bit, you have 2 to the 8 different values, or 100, or so 0 through 256. And when you are programming a computer, everything is done in terms of a memory address. So you're loading things into memory, you're reading things from memory, you're doing operations in memory. So the number of bits you have of memory allows it to do its operations. And so the first DOS programs were 8-bit, and then as chips got better and better, did I say? Yeah, the Intel 8008 was the first commercial 8-bit, and then the MOS 6502 was used in the Apple I's and early Apple II's as an 8-bit processor. So also, Apple, Atari, IBM, a lot of those early processors were 8-bit. And so with an 8-bit computer, you could only have, was it 16 kilobytes of memory. So also the number of bits define how much of your memory addressing. So which is how much total memory the computer can have. So then as time progressed, we got 16-bit computers with 16-bit processors, and that allowed for more complex instructions and more sophisticated computers. Some of the early data generals, early DECs, and then Motorola 68,000 processor and the IBM 386 were the first 16-bit processors, and they could go up to I think 4 megs of memory at the time. And then time progressed, and we got bigger and bigger chips, and got 16-bit. And the first Macs used a 24-bit chip. So you may remember what they call the 32-bit enabler, where if you had newer software, you could turn on 32-bit and use the extra addresses for programs. But it made old programs not work. So then we went to, we had 32-bit, and then we're currently on 64-bit. So each memory address can have 2 to the 64th combinations, which is 18 quintillion. So that's been enough for now. We likely won't see 128-bit computing for a long time outside of the lab. But the more bits you have, the more instructions you can load, and the more powerful your computer is.
And the larger the numbers you can do.
And the larger the numbers you can do, yeah. So one of the early problems, you may remember the Y2K problem, which was, I don't want to say oversight, but when in the 80s and 90s, when people wrote programs and they dealt with dates, they only talked about the last 2 digits of the date, because when doing your computer in 1980, the year 2000 was so far away. The joke is, the programmers said, well, we'll use 2 dates now, and we'll get around to going to 4-digit years later on, and later on never came. Partly because of the memory limitations. There wasn't enough memory to store a 4-digit year. So by the time the year 2000 came around and we're into 16-bit and 32-bit computers, there was enough memory, and so things could be updated and fixed. Now, the new problem is the Unix epoch. So on virtually every computer now, the date is a 32-bit integer, and it's the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970, because every clock has to have a 0 time. And so what happens is, at the end, when it reaches, no, that's not what I wanted. When they run out of bits, and I gotta find it down here. It's currently in 2039. Yeah, so when all 32 bits overflow, we're going to go from, January 2038, and it's going to wrap around to December 1901, because we've run out of bits. So we have until January 19th, 2038 to fix our clocks. But in most cases, the clock has already been fixed, either going to a signed integer, or I'm sorry, an unsigned integer. Because if you want to represent negative numbers, you use the first digit to be a 0 for positive and a 1 for negative. So you see here that why it wrapped around a negative time. On a signed integer, the first digit tells it it's a plus or minus. So later model computers, let me see if I can find out when they started doing that. Pretty much all current computers have the Unix epoch taken care of by going to a 64-bit clock. And so we keep talking about how many bits you need to do. The other time that bits comes into is in encryption. So if we do encryption, encryption key size, the bigger your key, the better your encryption cipher. And over time, again, as computers have gotten better and better, encryption keys have gotten bigger and bigger. So now we're in many cases talking about 4096-bit encryption, because the data that was encrypted 20 years ago with 40-bit encryption can basically be broken now because the computers are fast enough. So what we want to make sure is that the things we're encrypting now with 128 or 256-bit encryption won't be able to be broken in another 20 years when the computers get even faster.
So did that answer your question, Charlie?
Oh boy, yeah. Thank you very much.
Well, then that's related to qubits, which is quantum computing. That's a quantum bit. And so one of the fears is that when quantum computing becomes realistic, current encryption standards will be broken because quantum is so fast. You'll be able to break into any current encryption. But virtually all the OSs have now added quantum safe encryption ciphers, so that anything new being encrypted now is going to be encrypted with a quantum safe cipher. And actually that's sort of what happened to LastPass. You may remember a few months ago, LastPass got breached, and the bad guys got the entire LastPass stored database. So everybody using LastPass, it was about a year ago already, their password vault is now lost to the bad guys. And in the very early days, LastPass has been around for 20 years, they used they used strong encryption for the time, but as time progressed, they never updated the encryption on the old passwords. So people are that had their vault stolen are having old passwords breached because of the weak encryption by today's standards. And it seems to be the bad guys are going after Bitcoin and other encryptions. And so a bunch of LastPass victims lost $4 million in a single day. Oops. $35 million total has been lost. And the only common denominator that researchers have found is that those users were using LastPass and had a very old password. So their old passwords were vulnerable to modern computers.
Would those old passwords, were those passwords to get into the vault or to get into stuff in the vault?
To get into the vault, which then unlocks the vault so the bad guys can see every password in the vault.
So my question, I guess, is if you had an old password for your vault and you replaced it with a new, perhaps longer password, something like that, but stronger anyway, Would the old password still work to get into the vault?
No.
Then what good is it to the bad guys?
People didn't change their passwords.
Oh, all right.
So on security now, there was a bunch of stories on LastPass where he went into the details of how the LastPass breach happened. Yeah, there were 3 or 4. Yeah, he called it Last Mess. Show notes. Because of all the problems with LastPass. Oh, and they always have a picture of the week. So a plumber had to put in a pipe, and nobody said anything about moving rocks, so he ran the pipe around the rock.
I'm going to have
Pardon?
I'm going to have a general question about passwords. A number of years ago now, Dennis Worcester gave us a talk about passwords. And the simple takeaway for me was that the most important thing about a password was the length.
Yes.
And it seemed to me at that time, around 20 characters was pretty much unbreakable. But is that still true, or should I be shooting for 30 characters or what?
Generally, it is still true, but longer is better, and varying your alphabet is one of the best things. So this is GRC's password haystack. That if I type in so there's an 8-character password, and it can be breached in seconds. Here's a 14-character password, and that's down to weeks. So the offline search is what is happening now on LastPass. The bad guys got the vault, and so they can have the massive cracking array, basically thousands and thousands of processors cracking at a password to try every possible password combination. And a lot of the computers that used to use for mining bitcoins got turned over to password cracking because it cost too much in electricity to mine bitcoins anymore. So right now we're just using lowercase, so the alphabet is only 26 characters. If I change it to 1 uppercase, now my alphabet is 52 characters, but we're looking at centuries now for a cracking scenario. Just by having uppercase and lowercase, adding a symbol, now we're in hundreds of thousands of centuries. So long is good, uppercase and lowercase, symbols, numbers. The more things you put in your password, the better it is. So even almost a short password, so MONEY 7 bang, that's not a very good password because we're still using a dictionary word. So we'll put in 2 words separated by numbers and symbols, which is a pretty good password thing. What's the word I want? On how to make a password. 2 separate words separated by numbers and symbols. Easy enough for you to remember and for you to write down, but virtually impossible to crack in any given time.
Is it important for the number and symbol to be in the middle of it as opposed to the end or start?
Not really, but breached password analysis has shown that most people capitalize the first letter of their password, and they put the number at the end of their password, most commonly a 1 or the current year. And so the bad guys, when they're building their crack attack, will kind of assume that and try those first.
Now, it should also be noted that the computer, if it happens to just guess your password on the first try, it will get in.
Right. That's extremely unlikely. So you don't want to use a word because of what's called dictionary attacks. The bad guys feed every word in the dictionary into the cracking program. So using 2 words is good because that won't show up as a word. You don't want to use a quote, well-known quote or phrase. There was a breach a few years ago where someone found there is no fate but what we make as a password. What we make, which is a really long password, you would think, but it's a famous quote from Sarah Connor in the Terminator movies. So now the bad guys.
But the way you spelled it, they wouldn't crack it.
True, because I spelled it wrong. Yeah. So in addition to dictionary attacks, Roget's thesaurus, Bartlett's familiar quotations, they send those kinds of things into it. Also, people who try to delete speak. So P at W0R D. You try to fake the letters. The bad guys know that, so they'll try ats instead of A's and zeros instead of O's. Dollars, dollar sign instead of 4s. So the trickier you think you're being, the false sense of security you'll get. Someone found a password once, QAZ WSX EDC. That looks pretty random, except it's the first 3 columns of the text on your keyboard. Yeah, so
I had a problem with my bank where I had an easy username. I was just basically using R. Harrison as my username. And somebody apparently was trying to hack in to my account. And they didn't know the password at all. But they do their 3 attempts. And then the next thing I knew, I couldn't, log into my account.
Yeah.
And I'd have to call the bank, and I'd have to have them, allow me to get in. And then a couple weeks later, the same thing would happen again.
Yeah.
And after 3 times, I finally said, okay, I want you guys to allow me to change my username on my account.
Yeah, it may have been someone else named R. Harrison.
Yeah.
Spelling their name wrong, or they were trying to make an account and didn't believe the system when it said there already is an R. Harrison. That's why so many systems use an email address, because that has to be globally unique to you.
Yeah. So at any rate, once I changed my username and made it not as obvious, then I was fine.
There was.
Yeah.
What was that, Charlie? Go ahead.
Well, I have a problem relating to Walmart. Once in a while, I've tried to buy something online from them, and I'll type in my email for the username, and they'll say, "You've already got an account." And I'm pretty sure that it is a woman named Chastity, no extra T, Chastity Hasberg, last known to be in Iowa. And what she did was that she, when she created her Walmart account, she muffed it, because her email is Chasberg1 at Gmail, and mine has no 1. But so she did it without the 1, which means that my email is her username for Walmart.
Yeah.
And other than banging go ahead. Other than banging my head on Walmart, I don't know how to fix that, and it's not critical. But
yeah, and so what happened is the Walmart account is waiting for her to respond to the password verification loop, and she can't because she never got it. So I would hope eventually that would time out and they would let that email address be available again, but I can see them not wanting to do that. In fact, Yahoo got in trouble for that. They said they were going to delete unused email addresses and let people pick them up again. But if you had mail in your 20-year-old Yahoo account that you haven't logged into, other people would get it. So I could see them not wanting to do that. So you can make another email address relatively easily. In Google, you can make an alias or just make a new Google account. I was trying to find a list. I remember reading a list of sometimes you can go to a bank where they limit your password to an unreasonably short amount, 8-character maximum, which usually means there's an ancient COBOL database running everything behind the scenes. But there was a password analysis was done on some minimum password lengths. Some banks were allowing three characters as a password. Some were doing 8-character maximum. And a lot of the 82% of the breached passwords were good, strong passwords, but they were still breached. So that's why the Have I Been Pwned password list. You don't want to use the same password. So I'm going to type in monkey. If I want to use monkey as my password, that's bad because it's been seen 1.4 million times in other password breaches. So don't use monkey as your password. How many, let's try password, password. 10 million times the word password has been used as a password. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 42 million times. So because of credential stuffing attacks, it's called. Let me put in my. So if you want to get scared, go to this website and put in your email address, and it will tell you how many times that email address has been seen in a public data breach. So since I've had this address for 30 years, it's in 12 data breaches, and it tells you where they were breached and when. And so when Adobe got breached, my password hint and my password were breached and now public knowledge. So the password I used at Adobe before 2013 is public knowledge. So the bad guys will take that list of public passwords and try other companies. Especially they'll go to banks or PayPal or Amazon, and they'll try all of those leaked passwords and see if they can get in. So if you reuse your password, your email address is generally public knowledge, but if you reuse your password on another website, then the bad guys will be able to get in very easily. So you want to have a unique password for every website you open, and the operating systems and the browsers will suggest long passwords. But the problem with passwords is the other end has to keep the secret. And we've shown time and time again the other end can't keep the secret. So the industry is working on a new thing called passkeys that uses the biometrics that are built into your phone and your computer, so that instead of the other end needing to keep a secret, the other end asks your computer, is this the person who says they are? And you use your Touch ID or your Face ID, and your computer tells the other end, yes, that is who they say they are. So it's going to simplify logging in and make logging in places easier. But we've got 50 years of password inertia that we have to bypass. So you may have started seeing websites. Google is also part of the FIDO Alliance, which is the standard business that's standardizing passkeys. You may see if you log into a Google property, it asks if you want to create a passkey. So if you don't have a biometric phone or biometric computer, you want to say no, because that's what it uses. But the proliferation of biometrics in smartphones is pretty widespread these days.
Question: if you accept the passkey offer, will you still be able to use your password or not?
That depends on the site. In a perfect site, no, you will not be able to use your password anymore. But passkeys are too new, and so most sites are still letting you use your old password as well. So if you happen to be logging in somewhere where you don't have your biometrics, you still need to do your password. And the other thing is that they should turn off the forgot password loop, which emails you a way to change your password. So if the bad guys get into your email, they can change your password too. But the problem is most people have so much trouble with their passwords. Every company has to do a password loop. More and more companies are trying to do a text message for password loops, because it's a lot harder for someone to get your phone than it is for them to get your email password. Still possible, but they can. So that's why you'll see a lot of companies are doing two-factor authentication with a phone. So when someone gets your password, they still need your phone in order to log in on a different device.
Except that you said it's too easy for the bad guys to spoof your phone number or something like that.
Well, for incoming calls, yes. So what they do, there was just an article about that. If a bad guy gets your like your Apple ID password, let me see if I can find that specific one. Then if they try to log into your Apple ID, there's going to be a message on your phone saying, are you logging in? Here's the code. And so what they do, the bad guys will do, is they will spoof Apple's phone number, 800 Apple Care. I'm trying to find an actual picture of it. And so they'll call you and say they're Apple and say they are sending you a code, and then they log into your real Apple account and you really get a code from Apple, and you give them the code because you think they're Apple, and then they're in your account and you're screwed.
So that's why most of these businesses will say that they will never ask you for that information over the phone.
And most of the time they'll never call you either.
Right.
They'll text you a code that you type in somewhere, but they should never text that they're asking for a code. Tell us the code you just got. Well, you sent it to me. You should already know it.
Right.
Although some people take a little more to learn. We had a woman brought her computer in today because she got a fake message saying her IP address was compromised, and she let bad guys remote into her computer for an hour. 2 weeks ago, she brought her computer in because she got a fake virus warning saying her computer had a virus, and she let bad guys into her computer for an hour. So we thought we learned her about don't believe these fake messages, but 2 weeks later she falls for another one. So I guess maybe we've trained her to not believe fake virus warnings, but we never told her that IP address conflict or IP address compromised is also fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a quick question for Charlie. Charlie, were you able to work out your Windows installation?
Thank you. Yes, I was. And I actually am going to have a couple questions about that. And we seem to have kind of gone into a Q&A here.
Yeah.
So I may ask about them now, if that's all right.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, I was able to get the VMware installed and able to get a copy of Windows 11 downloaded and into it. And it works. Thank you for your help with that, Rick, because I phoned Rick at one point because I had gotten two I had attempted to download the Windows at least twice without success because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And so in the VMware, when you right click on the icon down in the dock, it showed Windows 11 x64, and those weren't really real. They're still there, but they're not a problem. The real functional Windows looks different. I don't know whether our conversation was before I actually made an appointment with the Microsoft Store, at which time the woman who worked with me on a video call on Teams, went through the purchase process with me. That was amusing because it went what I call full Murphy. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The appointment was for half an hour. I deliberately picked the latest one in the afternoon, and so she was with me for at least 45 minutes, during the course of which there was one problem with Microsoft, which I had previously encountered, where it would not let me put in my billing and delivered. Can someone please remove that child from the room? So anyway, so there was a problem on the Microsoft end of it. At one point, my Spectrum Internet went down, and also my Chase Visa card refused the purchase. So I ended up buying it a second time on a different credit card. That whole process worked out okay in a day or two, but it was just nuts. But I got the thing in there and it's working. So anyway, here is my two questions regarding that.
Which VMware program did you end up getting?
That free one that you saw online, the personal use one.
Okay, good.
And it would, yeah. So that part was free, and it was amusing because when you click on that and you want it, the first thing it wants to know is the name of your corporation. So my corporation is Retired Individual, and then it wants to know your position in the company, and my position is president. So I am president of the Retired Individual Corporation. But after that, it went on okay.
Yeah, on the assumption that average people won't need to run a virtual machine.
Yeah, I don't know. But at any rate, one of my questions is, if I back up, I kind of tried to look in Time Machine, but I did not try to open any of the files in Time Machine because I've done that before, and you told me you don't want to do that. But you can at least look at the list of what's in there safely, I think. And I think I saw it. When I back up my MacBook through Time Machine, will it also back up the Windows that's embedded in the VMware?
Generally, yes. Unless you exclude it.
All right, that fits, because when I looked in Time Machine, there was something in there that looked like it probably was the Windows, and it was about 23 gigabytes.
Yeah, that's the problem.
What's interesting,
and you may want to exclude the VM from Time Machine, because every time you do something in the VM, that 20 gig file changes and it has to get backed up again. And say you've got a 2 terabyte backup drive, backing up 20 gigs every hour, you're going to fill your drive in a day or two.
but it will. The way I have Time Machine set up, it does not automatically back up.
Okay.
It notifies me that it's been like days and days since a backup, and then if I feel like I do a backup, I'm pretty good about doing the backups, but I'm not doing the kind of busy, professional work where I absolutely don't want to lose anything I've done since the last one. So I stick with doing that manually.
Yeah.
You could set it up so it does it once a day, Charlie. That would be better than what you're currently doing.
They've changed.
Well,
I don't remember what OS it was, but they've changed Time Machine, so you now have a choice. Instead of every hour, you can do once a day or once a week.
Yeah, but the thing is that I don't leave. I'm backing it up to a LaCie hard drive, spinning hard drive I bought there at your store,
Yep.
and a number of years ago, and I'm not generating new data that is critical if I lose it
Mm-hmm.
in the interval between my backups.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, my point with regard to Rick's comment is that I do not leave the LaCie turned on. I turn it on to power when I want to do a backup. I do the backup and then I eject the LaCie and shut it off.
That's good.
Um,
And if you don't do anything in
and
the Windows environment, you don't need to keep. You could also exclude the VM file from Time Machine, so it doesn't fill up the drive any faster than it's going to.
but the thing is that even if it fills up the drive, it will only start deleting old backups to make room for new ones, right?
Correct. But if it fills up the drive in 2 days, now your oldest backup is 2 days ago. And it, but since
Yeah, but
yeah,
I don't.
yeah, you're not backing up that often, so it probably won't be a problem for you.
Right.
We've run into
And the
customers
thing
where
is,
that has been a huge problem. Their backup drive is full after a day, and because it's backing up the 100 gig VM file every hour.
interesting. I'm not sure why the VM file is 100 gigs for
Well,
them, but
because what they needed to do in Windows had a large size.
large storage. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
right. I am deliberately keeping. I install the Windows for a specific purpose to work on my bike, and I do not expect to have a lot of software loaded into it. I do not expect to have a lot of data stored in it. And one of the things I poked around and attempted to search in the Windows thing for a means to back up to an external drive, because when I first got the LaCie, the instructions told me or suggested whatever that I partition it, or it was pre-partitioned, and I had an option to move the partition. So what I did was I moved it to 3/4 for the Mac and 1/4 for nothing. And my thought had been to back up the Windows part of things to that LaCie share, the small
Yep.
part.
Inside of Windows, yeah.
Which is 500 gigs. But I did not readily find a way to do that. What I did find when I searched under backups is that Microsoft has an automatic sort of a cloud backup. I think sort of along the lines of what Apple does with my iPad, for example.
Right, but that's only
and it's
files you put onto the Microsoft OneDrive folder. Windows itself has a backup to do your C drive, basically the files inside of Windows. If you go into
All
settings and
right.
search for backup, you'll find it.
Okay, all right. I might poke around and take a look at that. But the thing is that I don't expect the size of that OneDrive thing, in a free version, I believe is 5 gigs.
Yep.
And I didn't want to kick myself into a position where I had to pay a monthly fee for it the way I do for
Yep.
the iCloud.
Yeah.
Um,
So using the Windows backup
So-
program, you can back up to a USB drive.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So then my other thing is, if and when this computer dies and I buy another one, the last time it happened when I got the current one, I connected the new one to the LaCie, and it just loaded everything up from the backup in the LaCie. If I have to do that next time, and I want to save the whole VMware Windows thing, will that work? Just connecting the new computer to the LaCie?
Yes, with a caveat. Are you on your? Do you have an Apple Silicon computer now?
No, it's
Okay.
an Intel i7.
So when whatever new computer you buy, if it's Apple Silicon, you'll have to reinstall the ARM version of Windows, because right now you have the Intel version of Windows.
Huh.
Most Intel Mac apps will convert to Apple Silicon, but the Windows environment, you'll have to reinstall Windows for ARM rather than Windows for Intel. That's the x86 you saw. That's Windows for Intel.
Actually, what it says is x64.
64-bit Windows Intel.
Right. So would that mean that if and when that happens, I've got to go back to Microsoft and get a different version of Windows 11 or whatever for ARM?
Yeah.
And
It
would I be
should
able
be.
to use?
Yeah, you should be able to use your current license and not have to pay
That was
for
my
it
question.
again.
That was my question. Very good. Okay, thank you. So far, so much. Now all I have to do is overcome my fear of the amazing, somewhat complex instructions I've gotten online for how to do the programming and the e-bike controller and try it. So one of these days. So does that answer your question, Rick?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it.
Too much information. Right, there we go.
So we have any
What
other
do you
questions?
think? Break time?
Yeah. Maybe a break, or someone else have another question?
All right. Do you want to take a break for about 10 minutes?
Sure.
Sounds good.
All
Too
right.
soon.
So back by 8:40 at the latest?
Yep. 8:30. All right. Yeah. 8:40.
Well, it's 8:28 now. I ain't going to take a 2-minute break. 8:40. Okay, good. At my age, what I have to do, I may not be able to finish in 2 minutes.
To the bathroom.
So how was your eclipse, Charlie?
How was my what, Bob?
Eclipse.
Oh, I didn't even bother to go looking for it. Were you
Oh, yeah?
anywhere where you could see it?
Oh,
Were you anywhere?
we got blacked out. Didn't see much, but we felt it get cold. We saw the lights go on. The street lights went on at 3:30 in the afternoon,
Cool.
and the birds went silent. Those are all predicted things. And we met a neighbor who we were just chatting with down at the corner. She's been our neighbor for 30 years, but we had all these things in common that I never knew about. We worked the same places, knew a lot of same people, and so it goes.
Cool.
Yeah. So you had no interest?
Well, I had
knew it
seen
was
the one
cloudy.
7 exactly, and I had seen the one 7 years ago, and I was determined that if it was cloudy in Rochester, I was not going to try to drive someplace else to see it.
The path of this one, and the path of the one 7 years ago, or 2007, I'm not sure which, but they formed an X.
Right.
One coming southeast went to the north, or from southwest to northeast. And the one before came from the northwest down to the southeast. And so where they crossed, those people had totality 2 times in 7 years.
Right.
I'm heading for Egypt in 2027 and watch it
The eclipse.
over the pyramids.
That sounds cool.
We went to the Science Museum on Saturday for their eclipse weekend, just for Saturday, and wasn't terribly packed. Was enough people, but not crazy. And did their planetarium show, which is about the eclipse, and then they had on the 3rd floor they had an exhibit going on of endangered species. So they had animals. They had a sloth. They had snakes, frogs, different things. And then they had different tables. And then the 2nd floor was all different clubs. So they had the Lego club there with all these spaceships and stuff that people had. They had the robotics team was there with their robots. They had all sorts of other clubs and stuff, giving out free stuff and glasses and everything. And then they had talks going on in the Eisenhart Auditorium during the day. And so we went to see Dr. Phil Plait, who has written a couple books. I guess he's been called the bad astronomer and stuff. So I'd given Steve a book for Easter. So he went and was able to get it autographed from him and everything. And he gave a really
What's
good
this guy's
talk.
name?
Dr. Philip Plait, Plait. So that was interesting. We stayed till about 4, but we got there early because I thought, oh my God, there's going to be a million people there. We went to the East End garage to park. Nobody was there. Got on the buses. We were the first people there. Nobody there. Get to the museum, and they supposedly said they were opening at 9. No, they opened at 10. So we got there early and just were vendors running around and saw a few people we knew and ended up in the gift shop because it was warm until the museum opened. And then it seemed like all of a sudden everybody just, boom, showed up. But it was really nice, a really good day. And, it was a beautiful day and stuff. So, and I guess that we got a lot of people from other places, but not like they said. But all the businesses were happy and the hotels were happy. And everybody was happy except to actually see the eclipse. But I guess everybody in the country got to see it along the path except for us. That was a bummer.
Well, I mentioned in the last month when we traveled to Mexico back around 73, and we were in Yucatan, a real heavy rainstorm, and we wound up going into a campground where we slept under a shelter, but with no sides, no walls or anything, just a roof on stilts. And when I woke up, there were two Volkswagen campers in the parking lot. They had New York plates on them, and turned out they were from the Rochester Museum. They went down there for an eclipse. So it was just strange in the middle of, the Yucatan. Here are these people from Rochester in the same campground.
Well, I ended up watching it like on ABC. We had coverage for an hour or two ahead of time. And they were showing it when they hit in Mexico. And that was really impressive. And then when they went to Texas, when it hit there, and then they were showing different spots along the way. And of course, the last hour, it was Rochester. So you didn't really get to see when it went all the way up to Newfoundland and left kind of thing, which would have been interesting. So
I have a question. Has anybody in the course of this whole eclipse thing heard any reference to there's a phenomenon with a total eclipse at the point where it becomes total, and then shortly thereafter when it ceases to be total, that sort of waves of gray lines will appear on the ground, either rolling toward you or rolling away from you, and I'm not sure which.
I hadn't heard that one. I've seen pictures.
I did hear that.
High intensity photography showing waves that normally aren't visible, stretched way out beyond, not just the corona, but,
they had that
described on the ground. I never heard that.
They had that at the talks at the museum. We're talking about that.
Yeah. Shadow bands.
So still, it would have been nice.
Some of the groups where they had a truly, clear view. I heard talk that like half the people wind up crying. They're really emotionally moved, and so on.
It was very interesting when it suddenly got dark, because you're waiting and waiting, and then all of a sudden it just gets dark. And then the same thing when it got light, it was like, boom. So that was impressive, because I was at my work and we were sitting out on the porch and just watching like, wow. I expected to see more people outside where I work, but nobody came out except for us. It was weird. But it was interesting, though.
Yeah, I agree. I found the darkness and even the clouds, like it was dark, but you could see light behind the clouds, so that you could see the ripples in the sky. I mean, it was just different. And we had heard a lot of birds while we were waiting, and when it got pitch dark, absolute silence, no noises.
Right.
Yep, because all the animals start going to sleep.
Yeah. I think even the zoo, I think they were at the zoo watching to see how the animals were going to react. And they had another zoo that I saw today where they said the animals got very riled up, some of them. Mm-hmm. Started racing around their areas and stuff, like the giraffe and some other ones, and they were surprised because they thought they would just be more subdued. And they said predators come out at night, and that's when the other animals get wary, because predators might show up. And that's why they
yeah.
were moving around and stuff, expecting a predator, through their impulses and stuff. So that was interesting.
Yeah, that would.
It would have been interesting to be at the zoo, though, I think, but mostly local news was talking about the Science Center in Casa Larga, because Casa Larga is the tallest area.
Yeah, and I didn't
everything.
realize that about Casa Larga, that it's the tallest area.
But they wanted $80 to go sit there. They were
Oh.
very expensive to go. They gave you glass and they gave you wine and snacks and stuff and music, and it was like, that's expensive.
Yeah, everything else, to my knowledge, was free. Like, if you went to,
Yeah.
what do they call it, that Innovative Square. And,
Yeah, everybody else was saying just come on down and then there'll be food trucks
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But Casa
Yeah.
Larga charged, Genesee Country Museum charged, I thought almost $100 for them too. And it was just like some
Wow.
places where,
Well, places that normally charge for events charged for the event.
yeah, but Casa Larga, you don't pay for it unless you're going to buy wine or tastings. But
yeah.
whenever they have an event, they charge you just to sit there and be on the patio or whatever. So there were a lot of people there. So I guess they all had a good time, commiserating, I guess you could say. But
Yeah. I
You know-
heard too that we didn't go on Sunday where they had the RPO playing
right,
downtown, and I guess that was quite an event.
I really wanted to go, but I thought there's, at last minute there wouldn't be any seats left. But the seats were only $39 for a lot of them, which was not bad. But you'd
Yep.
be up in the nosebleed seats for that. But
Probably, but I
still,
didn't even realize they charged for that.
yep. So depending on where you wanted to go, depended on how much money you wanted to spend
Yeah.
or be free. I mean, the rec center over in Perrington was free, and they had like a bouncy house for kids, and the pool was open. You had to pay for it, but they had a special rate. But for adults, it was just food trucks and some music, and that was it. And then the rec center person was telling they didn't have a lot of parking for people, so stay home if you don't really want to come out, because they didn't have the parking. But I went by it to go to work, and I didn't see it really crowded, and on the way home, the same thing. So I don't know.
That's when we expected to have clear skies, and then it would be massive.
Well,
Yeah. I think a lot of
people still went out and did things, so it wasn't a bummer in that sense. Everybody said they were still happy pretty much where they went to celebrate. But the guy I work for, he cursed all the time.
Oh no.
He was like, "Where is it? What's going on?" He said, "Rochester." And he was like, I said, "Well, it got dark. We saw that it was there, even if we couldn't see it. We
Yeah.
felt it, but he said, all that hype." I said,
Yeah.
"Well,
Yeah.
you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
It's April in Rochester, right?"
Weather is unpredictable. Nothing you can do about it except accept it.
Right? Or drive somewhere else where it's going to be sunny. And then in
Right.
which case you get on the thruway or wherever and you're like, you don't want to do it. So,
Yeah, we've talked about it, that Sunday was beautiful, Tuesday was beautiful.
Yeah.
Monday was Mother Nature giving a big middle finger to Rochester.
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
5:30 when the sun kind of came out.
I could not believe it when
And the
the
clouds
Yeah.
cleared.
Yeah.
Like
Sun
3
came
hours
out.
earlier, we could have used you,
Oh,
There's a lot of
But-
beautiful eclipse photos on Facebook.
yes. Yeah, I love John Kutchko.
John-
Has a lot of different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another one, John Kraus, too. He does
Okay.
he does a lot of he does a lot of space photography.
They
Oh.
did say, though, that there is a comet near Jupiter. You can't see it quite with your naked eye, but with binoculars, you can see it. And they said it's very spectacular with the tail.
When is
Another
that going to
one.
be? When is
That
gonna
is
be?
on right now.
Now.
Oh, right now?
Yeah, Jupiter
Yes.
attracts these things.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
when-
And they also said,
Yeah, during
that-
the eclipse, you could see Jupiter and the comet.
wow.
and they also said that if there's going to be solar flare prominence, because the sun is the closest to us right now, that you can wear your eclipse glasses and see them coming out from the sun.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of those pictures. So if
So
you,
it's
Yeah, if you look, what direction is it? I think it's southwest, just after sunset. You'll be able to see Jupiter and the moon. And now that, because it's a new moon, the sky won't be so bright. You may be able to see the comet near Jupiter.
Oh, I'll have to write myself a note for tomorrow. Get my
Yeah.
binoculars
So,
out.
but again, you got
Thank
to
you
have
for that tip. That's
you have to have
interesting.
clear skies. So
Oh,
it's supposed
we're
to
gonna have
rain
rain.
over the
Yes.
next few days. So
Yes.
There's a corona.
So as far as the local stuff was concerned, like Bob and Carol or anybody else who was here locally, during the eclipse, did it actually get as dark as night or just
It did.
dark as
It
dusk?
did.
Yep.
It got as
did.
dark as night, but it was just
Well, the street lights came on,
awareness
so
about it.
you know there's a lot of
Let me go back
light
to
pollution.
Yeah, let me go back to my post that I did. So here, let me see if I can slow it down a little. I did a time lapse, and
Oh.
so the street lights that started coming on.
Yeah.
And I didn't keep it going long enough. I was trying to find my other tripod and couldn't find the other tripod, so I'm holding on to
well,
it.
I took a video of it getting dark and light.
If
Well,
we'd gone up
somebody-
to the lake, it would have been pitch black.
Yeah.
Yeah, they also said that you could see the lights from Canada across Lake Ontario.
Which is usually very tricky.
Yeah.
Let me find more. I might be going back too far now.
I took
Yeah,
photos.
there's the
Oh, the diamond.
the diamond ring. Yeah.
Diamond ring, yeah.
They had a nice picture over Niagara Falls too. Somebody took.
I saw that on Facebook. Oh,
Johnson
looked
Space
gorgeous.
Center. Now, this was really interesting to me, that just across town, so Brockport got 3 minutes and 43 seconds, and Victor only got 3 minutes and 16 seconds. That's not that far apart for, that quite big a time difference.
that is wild.
Yeah. Well, the entire path of totality was only about 100 miles wide.
Okay, that's right. I remember hearing that.
Well, Brockport was like closer to the center line,
Yeah.
and Victor's a little further out from it.
Yeah, we were in Victor about almost as far away to still get totality. People in Brockport and a little farther west were able to get over 4 minutes of totality. Let's see. Here's one from. Oh, it doesn't say when, but you can see it getting darker. And the problem is the cameras don't like it when it goes from really bright to really dark.
Yeah, they try and adjust.
Yeah. I tried taking a time lapse with my my real camera, and it didn't work very well. As soon as it got dark, it didn't adjust enough, and so all I got was static. But it was funny. You got two diamond rings, one above and one below, because the way the moon was moving at the beginning and at the end. A bunch of the astronauts talked about what's happening. Let's see. There was a really good one that had the. Here we go. The prominences.
Ooh.
So someone said, what's the difference between a prominence and a flare? If it loops back around and hits the sun again, it's a prominence. If it leaves the sun, it's a flare. So that's some real, and so that's that prominence is probably 100 times the size of Earth.
Now, it's also interesting that the diameter of the moon is 2,100, about 60 miles in diameter, but yet the shadow is only 100 miles wide.
Well, because it's 250,000 miles away. The real space irony is that the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but the sun is 400 times farther away.
Yeah, it's such a weird coincidence.
But the moon is moving towards the Earth at about 4 centimeters a year. So in a few hundred years, we won't
Oh, it's
ever.
moving away, isn't it?
It's moving away, not
Away,
toward.
yeah,
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a few hundred, maybe a few thousand years, we won't have total eclipses anymore because the moon will be too small.
It'll all be annular.
No, by that time we will have created an artificial shell around it.
Yeah.
It'll be all our bases and things that are on the moon.
Now this was a neat one. So this was from a Starlink satellite, but there was also some from ISS. So there's the shadow moving across the frame.
Cool.
That's nice. No, it's a black hole in the center of the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a neat one. Pointed at the plinth. So the next eclipse in North America is going to be in 2045, but it's going to be Wyoming, North Dakota, out that area. The next eclipse in Rochester is in 2144.
I don't think I'll be here.
Yeah.
None of us will be
That's
here.
okay.
Even the newborn babies will not be here.
Yeah, we were
It'll
trying
rain
to look
anyway.
up when the next eclipse for the world was, and
No.
I guess there's one in Spain coming up.
Yeah. But that's the one that's like mostly Iceland and Greenland and like northern Spain. Like
Yeah, it's a
very
good time to
northern
go to
Spain.
Iceland, don't you think?
Yeah. If they don't have another major eruption.
There's a website called Mr. Eclipse, and he does all the math and tracks all of the eclipses. So let's see, let's go up to 24. So the next one is in October, going through the Pacific and South America. And the next total eclipse is in August of 2026 through Arctic, the Greenland, Iceland, Spain.
Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one we were talking about.
Yeah, here's your 2027 one, Shirley, in Morocco, Spain, Egypt.
Egypt. Oh, that's
Yep.
gonna be something.
So eclipses happen frequently. Total eclipses are every year and a half or so, somewhere on the Earth. When it comes to your actual city, can be significantly greater. So the last one was 100 years ago in 1925, and now we had 2024. The next one's not for 120 years. It's just coincidentally in that 100-year range.
So book your
There's
flights
a
now if you can.
website
That's one.
donating your glasses.
Yeah.
Called Eclipse Glasses USA, and you can mail them your glasses, and they collect them.
Yep.
And the destination is for kids in South America when they have the next eclipse down there.
In August, yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's eclipse23.com. Get you there, which shows you the address. One of my rocket friends, let me see if I find him, in Cleveland, had a lot of good, oh, there's a nice one. He had a lot of good of eclipse photos.
Yeah.
Couple of big prominences and flares.
Ooh, that's a good shot.
So that was the 25th, his full moon. Let's see. He's an audio engineer as well, so if you need any audio stuff, Rick can go to Angry Audio.
But will I get angry if I go there?
Yeah. So I played this one earlier. A company called Drone Ohio did a drone flight. Now they're breaking some rules here by flying over people and flying over buildings. So we'll see. Maybe they got special permission. But yeah, you can see how it gets dark, and all the city lights come turning on. It started getting noticeably dark. So the eclipse started at just after 2, but totality was at 3:20. But it started getting noticeably dark at like 2:15, 2:20.
Well, you can certainly see how hundreds of years ago people would have been panicking if they hadn't seen one before.
Yeah, Nick posted a thing on was it Saturday, the earthquake they had in New York City. I said, that's just a taste of my power. If you don't accede to my demands, I'll blot out the sun on Monday.
There are people who are doing conspiracy theories and everything about it, about the earthquake, and then the eclipse, and then I forgot something else happened, and they were all freaking out, going, "Oh my God, it's the end of the rapture was supposed to happen."
Well, that was this one.
Yeah, and of course they talk about the super tides too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people were just like going crazy.
I liked this one. That's no moon. Let me go back. I typed it the wrong thing. That's no moon.
It's the Death Star.
The Death Star, yeah. Yeah. Somebody had posted they wanted to buy like 100 blow up people. I can't think of it now. Balloon people. Blow up dolls. And fill them with helium and release them into the air to fake people into the eclipse. That was
you mean for the rapture?
Yeah, fake them into the rapture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this was a good one too. Got to have your rapture hatch so you don't get stuck in your house. Let's see. No, waving. Oh, that was the end of his eclipse photos. Anybody else have any good ones they posted somewhere?
Nope.
Let me do posts. There's that drone shot. Yeah, John Krause. Let me go into John Krause and see what else he got. So he is director for the Polaris program. So here's some of his eclipse shots and his rocket shots. The mock diamonds. The exhaust traveling faster than the speed of sound. SpaceX launch. Yeah, there's a SpaceX launch tomorrow morning. I guess these are all rocket launches. Does he have any more eclipse photos? Maybe not. Now, these photos are always interesting. So this is a rocket going basically straight up and downrange. And you can see from the trails of the stars that this was a long exposure. And what's so weird is the arc of the rocket looks like it's going up and coming down, but it's going up and staying up. It's just so weird.
Yeah, it's going beyond the horizon of the Earth there.
Yeah.
So that's what it looks like.
Huh.
Let's see. Fort Worth, I think we're... So here's John Kutchko. So he was, where was he? Naples. And you can hear the animals. Sometimes when it gets dark, you hear the crickets. And there, we're getting dark. Naples might have been too far south to get.
Yeah, they're a little bit off the center
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
That was getting
Still pretty dark though.
Yeah. No light to come on. But you can hear the crickets. You know, is that crickets or cicadas?
We can't hear it.
Cicadas haven't come out yet.
It was amazing to me just how fast it got dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was much faster than a sunset, that's for sure.
Oh, there, look, there must be a light on in that cabin. An 1850s farmhouse. So he doesn't say what camera he's using, but it must be adjusting for the darkness.
I'm also kind of curious about how dark it got in places where there were no clouds.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
There was one back here. So this is Fort Worth, Texas.
Let's go!
Let's see if they have a ground shot.
That's all right. But
if you look up Mexico, or landed in Mexico.
No, here's from the space station. That's impressive.
Wow, that's a really cool shot.
It's the Stargate.
Yep. The Ori
Yeah,
are
I hadn't
coming.
seen
It's a
that.
super gate.
That is pretty.
Let's see if I can go to that hashtag. Yeah, I saw this in the 2017
cool.
eclipse.
Yeah, the different shadows.
Yeah, all the shadows coming through the trees because all the leaves are acting like a pinhole camera.
Yeah, Carol and I were noticing how weird the shadows were on the clouds.
New York City, this one. So they only got a partial. Let me see. Yeah, so it's tough to see how dark it is because the cameras are trying to adjust.
Yeah.
But that, it got, dead of night dark. Where is this one? It doesn't say.
Well, like I said, you should look up ABC News for the one in Mexico, because that was pretty cool. Because they were out in the middle of nowhere in Mexico. They weren't in a city.
Yeah, Mazatlan was the beach party. Let me do videos.
They weren't by a beach, though.
And I want to say, anytime, I want to say in the past week. Here's a 6-hour one. No. Mazatlan. There's a 10-minute one.
Warm welcome back. If you want to be the first to view the eclipse in North America, then you need to travel to
strong emotion, tears,
It is that, and this isn't a religious point, it's sort of a spiritual point. To those who are watching,
activity in Peru, but yet we were able to see it, and we had armed guards around us. Now we're in the middle of the ocean. Everything is calm and quiet.
Yeah, people went out on a charter boat
lunch after the eclipse.
Paul, I'm going to let you enjoy what we're about to see.
At the other end,
because literally
the North
now
Atlantic
is when the partial eclipse starts in Mazatlan in Mexico. We will, I mean, my understanding, Tom Riddle, is that this thing is going to take some time. Crowds watching it. How long is it going to take before we move to significant seeing of the thingamajig, which will then become the full lot in how long?
The thingamajig.
Thingamajig, a weird way to describe it.
Yeah. 1407.
Mazatlan.
What?
Mazatlan.
Yeah, fine. I know.
Thanks, Bill, because I didn't want to be the one to say it.
I know from my notes that at that place,
Yes.
it's going to be at 1407. All right. So that's in our time, in Eastern time. So that's over an hour and 20 away.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it takes a while. It's probably tempting to, at
There it
first
is.
contact,
Look,
right?
Look, there it is.
Yeah, you can just see.
I can.
Yeah.
Top right-hand corner.
Top right-hand corner. That is first contact, right?
Right.
That's first. As it began to move towards totality, notice that maybe the topography of the moon was playing tricks with the light, right?
That's right. So Bailey's
no
beads is diamond ring, which would be amazing to see. So
I told you, if you go to ABC News, they had all of it.
Yes, you're going to see kind of a reverse.
Yeah, 2 days ago. How am I going to find it now?
The march towards totality on the other side of it.
Just type it in.
Yep. And now I got to scroll back through 2 days worth of news.
Just type it in.
I did just type it in. I'm at ABC News.
All right, fine, whatever.
North America.
David Muir.
Ukraine. That's a static picture. Let me search for videos. All right, there's a 7-minute video. If I go to YouTube, will it get big? Yeah.
And you see just the moon still just slowly inching across, but it is an eerie feeling. I mean, it really looks like this would be dusk on any other given day. But people all with their heads to the skies, to the heavens, people taking it in just all various ways. Of course, I said this is my first time. People describe this as a supernatural, as a spiritual experience. I have to say that there's nothing like this that I've ever experienced in my life before. And the crowd's starting to cheer here.
Yeah, let's listen to the crowd as this goes into totality. Just a few moments left before it completely disappears.
See just that remaining sliver.
The swell of the crowd, and we'll see that corona here moments from now.
And there we go. There we have it. We can take our glasses off, I guess, at this point.
Wow.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. That is just
stunning. Wow.
Oh, it does. It really does. It leaves you speechless, doesn't it?
That was exactly my thought. Look at that.
So they have studio lights on the people.
The birds are flying right across the lake here.
Now, the only thing I found after watching ABC News was they had a reporter out there talking to people about the eclipse. The eclipse happens, and they're still talking, and meanwhile they're going, "Wow, this great event." And I go, "You're not even looking up." And the people you're talking to can't look up because you're talking to them.
Oh, geez.
Whereas other reporters in different cities stopped and looked at it. They didn't talk during some of it. So it was interesting, like once in a lifetime, but yet let's chit chat through it.
I posted a link there from YouTube for ABC.
Yes, because they did some good coverage of it, I have to say.
Thank you, Bob.
So that,
excuse me.
That answers the question of whether during a total eclipse the talking heads go silent.
We need Verizon. Get the new iPhone 15 Pro with tons of
Depends
storage.
on who the
so you
talking
can take
heads
all
are.
the pics.
Trade in any
mostly
iPhone in
no.
any condition and get iPhone 15 Pro on us. Only on Verizon.
I did tape the whole thing.
crowd,
I tried a couple of different
We'll see that
channels to
Corona
take
here
those
moments
channels.
from now.
And there we go.
That's one I just, yeah, that's one I just had open.
Yeah.
In, yeah, Burlington, Vermont.
That is just
stunning.
There's Cleveland.
So as we look up now, there is just a small sliver of the sun that is still visible, and we will go through a small...
Oh, here we go, Montezuma National Wildlife Refuge. So they're farther west of us, so it would have been longer. And no city
East.
lights.
They're east of us.
Are they? Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
east, not west.
Wow, there's a lot of people there.
Everybody stopped on the side of the road where you're not supposed to stop.
Yeah.
Although I don't think that's the throughway.
Well,
That's probably the Montezuma.
Yeah, they have,
Yeah, that's their
roads
side
right
road
within.
there.
Yeah.
This is something else.
You can hear the peepers.
Yeah.
Geese.
Oh.
Oh, that's pretty.
If you if the ground was flat enough, you could see to the left and right. If you could see 100 miles across, you can see where it's still daylight.
Listen to the creatures. Wow.
That was amazing. I thought they were supposed to go quiet.
The night creatures are going
So we should take
Yeah.
a holiday?
These are frogs.
There's a frog?
I don't know.
It's a nightingale.
Yeah.
That's Romeo and Juliet line, the nightingale and the lark.
What is that? What is that, Don? That noise.
Fireworks.
No, that's that loud one.
Oop, is that the sun peeking out from behind the cloud?
Yeah, it looked like it for a second.
Yeah,
One of them said something. One of the people there said something about fireworks, I think.
I heard a boom in the background, like maybe fireworks.
Yeah, we had people around here doing fireworks.
And then all the dogs started barking.
Some of our airplane guys were talking about going out to the field and taking their night flyers to fly from day to night to day.
We had one jerky neighbor that was running his blower to blow leaves and stuff. And we were just ticked at him. It's like, why don't you just stop that? But, of course, we weren't anywhere near him. Finally, it got too dark for him to do it, so he stopped.
When we were at the museum on Saturday, we were continually surprised. Every time we went back to the main building, people were saying, "What's going on? Why is there so many people?" You didn't know there was an eclipse today?
How could they not know it? God, they've been talking about.
Oh, it's reconnecting. I think doing a video in the middle of the video was a little too much for it.
Set it up, and then I realized I really don't want this. And then to try to figure out how to shut it down was a mess. And I thought, you know what? This would be a good thing for Apple CIDER to review. Like, how do you control what iCloud does? And I noticed that there was a thing that said that you had, if you didn't want to use it, you had 60 days to download what was out there, and then after that, it's gone. So that might be a good thing to review.
Yeah, you don't have any control. You turn it on and you turn it off. Those are your only controls.
Well, did there used to be a way of telling it, oh, yes, I want my photos to be in the cloud, but I don't want my songs there. I do want my videos, but I don't want this other thing there.
Nope. Well,
no, none of that?
Sorta. You can turn iCloud Photos on and off, and you can turn iCloud Desktop and Documents on and off. Those are your choices. If you have iCloud Desktop syncing, then everything on your desktop and documents is synced. If you turn that off, then only the things you put in the iCloud Drive folder will be synced. So you do have some limited control that way.
Mm-hmm.
Only the stuff you put in the iCloud folder. Very similar to the way Google Drive and Dropbox work. Only the things you put in that specific folder get synced. But iCloud has the option of syncing everything on your desktop and documents, which it does pretty nicely. The stupid thing is when you turn that off, it removes everything from your desktop and documents and puts it in the iCloud archive.
Mm-hmm.
And then it tells you it did that, and it shows you where it put those archive files. No one ever remembers that screen. People are always bringing their computers into us, probably at least once a week. All my files disappeared. Well, you turned off iCloud Desktop and you ignored the screen that said this was going to happen. And then you ignored the screen that said it did happen. And you ignored the screen that said, here are your files.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, that's why I think it would be good to have a small demo of that if you want to do that at a future meeting.
All right, we'll put it on the list.
It's nothing I want to demo because it's going to remove everything from my computer. But we can talk about it.
Well, you could do some screenshots or something.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Anybody want to discuss? Okay, Charlie.
Yes. I have a question. I've asked about this periodically and gotten, I guess, a short answer each time. And I'm not sure that I know how to do it. And it's about, and I won't use the right term, but it's about the closed captioning available within the Mac by Apple. And I don't know if it's called, it's not Live Listen. I don't know what it's called. should I go into my should I screen share and go into my settings while you talk about it, or what?
Well, it's called live captions, and for video that doesn't already have captions, you can turn it on. I never know where it is, so I just search for live caption in the in the settings. Let me turn on window settings. So theoretically, somewhere in these, probably under accessibility is live captions, but I can never find it. So part of the problem is you got to know what it's called. So
I believe you're correct about that.
So if I search for caption, you can turn on live captions. It's currently in beta, which means if it doesn't work, too bad. But when audio is playing, it will try to caption it. Let me see what happens.
Okay, can we pause here?
Yep.
Can we pause just a second? What I'm seeing there at the bottom of your screen is live captions in FaceTime.
Apps can be specifically written to use live captions.
So it depends on what I'm watching, whether it would work or not. But
not exactly. The system tries. You can't see on the screen share, but I've got a gray box up of the captions. It's trying to caption the lounge audio. So it will try to caption any audio coming into the computer. Some programs are specifically written to use it so it works a little better. And you can probably turn, there's shortcuts you can turn on or off if you want live captions to be on or off.
You were in the live captions beta then, right?
Yeah. So I searched for caption, and it's showing me all sorts of things that have captions. And this allows you to, excuse me, allows you to control what the captions look like.
Right. I've seen that.
But if we go to live captions itself, then you can turn live captioning on. So it displays captions across all apps. But in the case of FaceTime, since that's also an Apple app, they've hooked it in so it works better inside of FaceTime. Now, YouTube and Facebook video have tried to add automatic captioning built into those services, so you don't necessarily have to do it on the computer.
Right. No, I use the I use the closed captions or whatever when I watch YouTube videos where they're available. That part is okay. But it looks like what I need to do is go where you have gone, which is under accessibility, and poke around in those things, and then just see whether on a case-by-case basis it does it or not.
Yeah.
For instance, for example, some of the YouTube videos that I watch do not have closed captioning available. The little box is grayed out on the YouTube screen. Yep. So I don't know whether it would work or might work if I tried to do it with those, or because I'm trying to think of other places where I would like it available, and honestly, one of them is our mastermind lounge meetings. But I don't think that's happening. I don't know. But
it would have to be done at your end to turn it on.
Right. Like going through what you're going now?
Yeah. And then you wouldn't be able to use Either the headset or the mic. I don't remember how it gets the audio in order to do the captioning.
Doesn't YouTube have an option for live captioning?
Yes, I'm sorry, Rick, but I believe I just talked about that. It does, and I use it. Well, I don't know about live captioning because I'm watching videos, recorded videos. Are you talking about, for instance, a live feed on YouTube?
Yeah, it does. YouTube does live captioning and closed captioning, but not on every video. Older videos may not have it turned on yet.
Correct. Right. Yeah. Well, I'm thinking when you mentioned that you might lose either your mic or your audio, I'm thinking about the stuff I got into when I put the EQ Mac on my MacBook. And before I put the EQ Mac on, I played around with some other thing, which ended up with installing Black Hole. And sometimes what happens is that I'll lose the sound on a video, for example, and I go up to the top to the little speaker thing and click on it. And at the top of the choices will be headphones, and down at the bottom, and they're like about four. The fourth choice will be EQ Mac. And
LEDs
even if
don't
it
get their
shows
color
that
from their
EQ Mac
plastic.
is active, if I click on the headphone choice, then it instantly pops back down to EQ Mac, but the sound is on. So that's just some little foible in it that I have to work around, and that works out okay. But all right, I mean, if there's, and I think maybe part of the answer is that it's in beta, and until they say it's for real, I may not find it anywhere where I want it, where it's not already available by other means, like YouTube.
Yeah, I found a YouTube video where captions are not available, but it's a music video, so there's no, well, it's just music. I'm looking for something that has text on it, but may not have captions. But since I'm using a headset, since I'm using a headset and microphone, I don't think it's gonna find it.
I watch a lot of old 30s.
Yep.
I watch a lot of old 30s and 40s movies, and some of them are old enough that YouTube does not have the captioning available on them yet, or ever, maybe, you know. Okay, well, thank you.
I think that Black Hole app, the marketing people were not thinking. I mean, I hear that, and it sounds to me like it could be a virus or something. I don't want anything with that. It might suck up my audio, or who knows what.
Steve knows about it, and once I got the EcuMac and didn't need the Black Hole anymore, I went into, like, you know, hard drive or whatever, and looked around for it to see if I could just delete it, remove it, uninstall, whatever term you want to use. And Steve explained that once it's in there deep, and you're probably not going to be able to find it. I don't know that I don't think it causes me any trouble, and I have no reason to believe from the reading, the brief reading I did online about it before I installed it, that there's anything malignant about it, you know.
Yeah, it's a version of Soundflower, which is a version of Audio Hijack. So
yeah, it's just a dirty program because it leaves stuff around even though you have tried to delete it.
Well, it's in invisible files because it ties itself into the OS. So you have to run the uninstall program.
And you find invisible files how?
You turn on invisibles, which is Command Shift period.
Yeah, Command Shift period. Yeah.
Or when you go into the Find command, there's a more option where you can bring up more criteria to search by, and so you can turn on system files and invisibility, file visibility.
I'm sorry, is that by going into library using the option key that you're talking about, or is that something else?
That's something else.
I'm sorry. I was trying to write and write while you were talking, and I only have half a processor, so it didn't work.
Yeah, if
to
you go,
reveal hidden files, you use Command-Shift-period.
but that doesn't help any because you want to find the invisible file. So when you go into find, there is different criteria you can find, and there's an other option to let you add visible and invisible criteria, and also add system files as a criteria. Because normally system files are not included and invisible files are not included in a search.
No, I'm sorry, but you say find, and you don't mean the same thing as the finder, right?
Well, sort of. You go into the finder and then hit the find command.
The find command.
Yes.
Yeah.
Command
It's a
F,
menu item.
or where is it? It's in the file menu.
Yep.
Oh, Command F, like you would to find a word in an article.
Yeah, to find anything. Yep. And then it gives you the search scope, so you can search the entire computer or the folder that you're in. Actually, let me share my screen. Share screen. I'm going to share a window, and I have to share the Finder. So you can search the entire computer, or you can search just the folder that you were in. And you have criteria available. So right now I have a kind of criteria. I can pull that menu down and search for other things. And there's an other command at the bottom, so I can add new criteria. And there's lots and lots of criteria you can add. So one of the ones I do, because I search for stuff like this a lot, is I will have system files available to search by, and visibility. Is it under V? Nope. INV, or file visibility. So there's so many criteria. You have a search. You have a search for criteria. So I have turned on invisible files and system files. So I can do a search based on visibility and based on system. So I want to include system files, and I want visible or invisible files. And, oops, I'm getting a beach ball. I confused it. Alright, so I'm going to search for black. Black hole. Okay, so it's not called black hole. Let me look for the installer. What it calls it here. Existential software. Uninstall.
Yeah, on my sound list, it's black hole, one word, except that the H in hole is capitalized.
Yep.
Space 2CH. Black hole 2 channel or something like that.
All right, there it is.
There you go.
So it's under library, audio, plugins, HAL.
And I suppose
so there's a go command. Or you can go there. So if we go to hard drive, library, audio, plugins, HAL, there's the black hole driver and the zoom driver I've got loaded. So
I think a pertinent question is whether I should worry about it at all. I don't think it does any harm.
It doesn't do any harm, but if you're not using it, you might as well remove it. Some system update doesn't break compatibility, or it doesn't break compatibility in some system update.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna remove it since I got the external USB audio jack, I don't need to use Black Hole anymore. So there's a commercial program called Audio Hijack that from Rogue Amoeba, which does audio editing, or not audio capture. So you can grab audio from any app and feed it into any other app. And then there was a shareware version of that called Soundflower that got abandoned and left behind. And then Black Hole is the new version that does that now. But that, yeah, so that's if you want to say record record YouTube audio to your computer. You can use something like Black Hole to do it if YouTube doesn't allow you to download it itself. There is there's a plugin.
Is the Black Hole driver, is that free or is that an app?
That's free.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if you really want to save YouTube videos, there's a program called Downy. Wait, is that it? That's a monthly subscription. I don't know if that's it. They talk about it on Mac Break all the time. Let's see. Let me do Break YouTube video downloader. Yeah, Downey is the one they talk about.
You know, I have a question. When you're talking about how the only problem that the Black Hole might be for me would be if I were to do an upgrade, for example. Now, an upgrade's not going to happen on this computer because it's 2017 and it's done. But
an update may be possible too, but probably not.
Charlie, look into Open Core Legacy Patcher, because then you could run a more modern operating system on that machine.
But there's a reason Apple doesn't want it to run on it, and it's usually compatibility or performance. So
I've had very little problems with it on my older machines. It works like a gem.
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't have any. Thank you for the suggestion, and if I live long enough that this computer dies, I may give you a phone call again and say, Rick, what was that thing you talked about? That, you know, but it would. I think I'm stuck with whatever the V thing is, Ventura, for now, and I'm not really bothered by it. I don't need to try to soup this thing up any, and I think I'd just as soon stick with no problems.
Well, as long as you're comfortable with that, you know, you have to remember that older operating systems have security flaws.
Well, they continue to put out updates to cover those, don't they?
Only about 3 versions back.
Yeah, well, we're one version ahead of me now. We're Sonoma, right?
Oh, so you're at Ventura right now. Okay, you're fine.
Yeah, so 12,
right, yeah,
12, 13, and 14 are still supported so far. Critical updates have gone back a little farther too. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I have a question. When we get done with this, I want to ask a question before we go.
I'm done.
Okay. Has to do with my iPhone. Carol calls me, it rings, and yeah, it rings a lot of times when people call me, but I've gotten some calls and I don't hear the ring, and I see it says silenced call. And I don't know how it got silenced or why it got silenced, but it just didn't ring.
There is a feature called silence unknown callers.
How do I turn that on and off?
Surely.
I must have turned it on.
Surely you just found that.
It's under settings.
Yeah.
And then you just scroll down.
Find where it is. Settings and phone.
Yep. And then you scroll down and there's a little thing to turn on and off.
I learned something today.
Yes, because I read it and I saw it somewhere mentioned. I thought, oh, okay.
Because I've had that happen too. That I never heard of something ring, and you know.
Well, I have my phone silenced all the time just because I get too many calls. I don't want to hear it ring, which means I just have to keep checking my phone to see if anybody called me. But most of the time, it's just garbage. So
Oftentimes it's used as a spam filter. So unknown callers are callers that are not in your address book. And people you want to hear from, even when your phone is silenced, make them a VIP, and then they can get through the silent setting.
I had gone to phone incoming call, and there's an option there for banner. I don't know what that is.
That shows a banner when someone calls.
Saying what? Their name?
Yeah, their name or their number.
And full screen is an option. I don't know.
It shows the banner in the full screen instead of just at the top of the phone.
Okay, so that's a separate one, but it refers to the banner. But I don't see anything here for the silence call.
And you're in the...
Oh, here, silence unknown callers. It's on. No, it's off. Okay.
So now any phone number that calls you, it will ring.
You fixed it. Yay.
Yeah, thank you, Shirley.
I had to turn off one of Apple's special features.
Well, most people turn that on as a spam filter. And people, they want to hear the phone ring, put in your address book.
Yep.
Yeah, but this was an old friend, and he just gave me his phone number.
Yep.
And then he called me, but he said he called me.
New phone, who dis?
Yeah.
I got a quick question. I tried to do a time machine restore a couple weeks ago, and time machine came up and it said, well, you can only do it from these complete restore backups, and some of them were quite old. And so I was wondering, why don't I have newer ones, and why does it have to be a complete backup? Why couldn't it just piece it together from its last big backup and then the incrementals?
Because it doesn't work that way. If you want to do a full restore, it has to be from a complete backup. If you want to restore just a single file or three, then you can do it from any backup.
Okay, so how do I tell Time Machine always do a complete backup?
You don't.
Then what should I do? How do I monitor that?
You don't.
Should I tell my Time Machine, okay, erase yourself once a week and then start over again?
Well, then you can only go back a week on your backups.
Well, it might be enough. I want current. I don't want really old stuff, usually.
Well, for most people, the point of a backup is I need this file back from a week ago that I deleted, or a month ago that I deleted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not usually how it is for me.
So if the backup doesn't finish, that's a partial backup. So it should show you the most recent completed backup to restore from. The other problem that runs into is if you try, so if you backed up with Sonoma and then try to restore with Ventura, it won't, because the OSs are different.
I noticed that. Yeah, that was a pain in the butt.
You have to erase the computer, install Ventura, and then restore from backup.
And then upgrade to Sonoma?
Yeah, I had to end up doing that. It was
Yeah.
a pain in the ass.
To revert from an OS upgrade, so if you install Sonoma and decide you don't like it, you have to erase your computer, reinstall the previous OS you want, and then restore from the backup made with that OS. So in your restore options, it will tell you what OS made that backup. But how do we tell it to make a complete backup? How do I know when my backup is complete?
Here's a good one. How do I force a full backup on Time Machine?
Yeah, erase it and start over.
So just for my confusion here, in the example you're talking about, you talk about erasing the computer and then reinstalling Ventura, for example. So do you have to reinstall the Ventura first and then do the backup from Ventura? And if so, where do you get Ventura once Apple has moved on to Sonoma?
You have to already have it, or download it on a computer that's already working.
Yeah, I had to download a copy of Ventura and create an install thumb drive.
Yep.
And then I was able to use that. And that was another pain.
So Rick, if you do a verify backups, that should tell you if it's a complete backup or not, according to some of these I'm finding now.
And how do you turn on verify backup?
It's not an on or off, it's a do it now. Hold the option key down while you go to the Time Machine menu.
Oh, okay. And of course they had to hide it again. Have to use the option key.
Yeah, there's a lot of extra things pop out when you hold the option key and pull down menus. As far as I knew, Time Machine does an incremental backup, and when it completes it, it basically plays with the hard links so that every backup looks like a full backup. If the backup doesn't finish, it's just a partial backup file on the drive.
All right, well, this was helpful. I learned a couple of options that I can try with it.
Good.
For the future. So thank you.
Yep. Alrighty, we're pushing 10 o'clock. Anybody have any last minute?
Nope.
Do we know our topic for next month?
Don't recall offhand. I don't think we had one, did we?
When Shirley, when I send out the agenda for the board meeting, I'm going to copy those ideas from Ken's. Ken sent out an email.
Right. Yep, that'll be good.
I'm going to copy those in.
And then put Rick's suggestion about iCloud in there.
So what was his suggestion about iCloud?
To talk about iCloud and just have a general talk about it.
Setting up and what options you have for controlling it. Few though they may be.
Right. And I'll thank Rick in advance for presenting that. That'll be good. You
can use our recent experience as a guide.
That's right.
So the only other question is Bob doing his green apples on Saturday.
Yeah, right.
Now that he's back,
Yeah, I'll be around Saturday. So at 3:00, I'll send out an invite.
If you could send it out, an hour earlier, that would be better. I'm not talking about the invite, but I mean just the reminder that, hey, we're going to have this meeting at 3:00.
Okay. If only there was a calendar program on your computer that had reminders.
Or on your phone.
Oh, that's too structured.
Or your watch. All right, guys.
Well, I'm going to bring it up at the board meeting too, but we got an email from an old member, and he has a pile of old Macs, SE30, 2FX, G4s, a 2012 MacBook Pro, a 2015 MacBook Air. If anybody wants them, I'm going to suggest I was going to ask, should I suggest he bring it to the picnic for the flea market?
I would say no and have them recycle those ASAP.
Somebody may want one.
We got enough of our own junk lying around here.
Well, you know what you could do is
sold
you
the
could get
Performance 6200 this week.
You could list by when we get to the picnic time, like a week before, and say, here's a list of what is available. Is anyone interested? He will bring it to the picnic. And then if he gets anybody who says, yeah, then bring one thing or whatever it is. Otherwise, no. That way you could only bring what somebody is interested in.
Yeah, that sounds better. If you publish
Instead of bringing
it.
everything. Or, have a tailgate sale. Put them all in his car or whatever and say, here, I got things for you to look at.
When you say that this is an old member of a club, is he still involved with the club anymore, or
not? He says he's good friends with Carl Abbott, who also is an old member that hasn't been involved recently.
You know what I do? I tell them, pony up your membership, and then you can bring stuff.
Yeah, current members can come to our picnic and sell stuff.
That's right.
You're starting to. Yeah, my point being that I don't know if the guy is even mobile anymore, that kind of thing. But at any rate, I don't know that. But you reminded me of an amusing thing, which is that to be a good ecosystem, I took my old bedroom air conditioner down to the Eco Park on Avion Drive for them to recycle the coolant or whatever it is. And they charged me $20 to do that. So I did have to pay to give away something.
What was it again that you gave away?
It was one of those portable air conditioners.
Oh, okay.
No,
the thing is,
generally at e-waste they don't charge for computers, but they do charge for monitors.
But Fairport this summer went and did not charge for the TVs or anything.
I wonder how they did that. Recycle thing that happens every year. I think it's out at Xerox. They'll take like 3 TVs or something for free.
Yeah,
well, this was
Brighton has that on a regular basis.
Parrington doing it.
Yeah,
Parrington was charging.
Most of the
Sun King will be free.
Well, it sounds like we all know where and when people are letting you get rid of your old crap.
We don't know when because they schedule it, and then you got
whenever.
Got to see it scheduled.
I'll give you a heads up a month before. I think it's in May.
Oh, Parrington sends out notices about it too.
At any rate, my decision was that if I ever had to do that again, I would just throw the thing in the dumpster because I'm sure plenty of other people are, A, and B, whatever change they made in the coolant from Freon to the new version is probably working because the ozone hole is getting smaller. You know, so in other words, you probably don't need to have them suck the coolant out of it to save the planet. You know.
Yeah.
I was like when I took a microwave oven down there to them because it had electronic components, and I asked them where to put it, and they said to put it in the scrap metal dumpster. So the next one of those is going into the dumpster out in the parking lot here too.
I've got an old garage door opener we got to do that with.
Or you can take it down to Macedon to the spare
the scrap metal dumpster.
Yes, I took, you know, when you got new tires or whatever, I took the brake things or whatever down there and made $12. So just to haul them down there. I was like, okay, no problem. So it's not a lot of money, but it's something. They weigh them and then say, hey.
You took the disc down, right?
Yep. Yep. Because nobody else wanted to get rid of them. All right. Well, we want to officially end. It's 10:01.
Okay.
All right.
And here we thought we had nothing to talk about.
That's right. All right. Well, then I guess we'll see everybody on the board next week. And we'll discuss things and everything. And hopefully we might have a sunny day again. Who knows? I see in my weather app that by next weekend, here's what it said. By, what did it say? Next Tuesday, it's supposed to be up to 79 degrees, and Thursday it's going to be 80 next week.
Wow.
But no sun. It shows clouds for every day. So every day from now on for another week, it's going to be cloudy, no sun involved. But we know that's not true. So the sun always pops out a little bit sometimes. So.
Okay.
All right.
All
Very good.
Yep.
All right.
Good night.
I'll see you later.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night and thank you.